Most organizations today have installed and are using physical access control systems. Physical access control systems control the access to doors and different areas within your organization today. What you typically do in a physical access control system is you go into that system, you import or enter users, and then you enter access rights, and you're going to assign in a fairly static way, this person has access to that. Once you've done that, that person then using their access badge or a similar credential is able to open doors and go through your facilities based on their access levels. Now, what is a physical identity and access management system? How does it compare to that? Think of it as a software layer that sits on top of your existing physical access control system. And the whole idea is that instead of manually going into the physical access control system and managing your users and access rights, you're going to use this new layer, physical identity and access management, to do all of that on your behalf. A physical identity and access management as such integrates with your physical access control system. We call the physical access control system the system that sits southbound of the physical identity and access management layer. But that same PIM system also integrates and pulls information from other systems in your organization. And more specifically, people-related systems. Think of Active Directory, an HR system like Workday, and enterprise IT systems that may contain information that is valuable, important to do good and proper access control. One simple example, a learning management system. In some cases, you want, in order for people to access a certain area, you want those people to have gone through a certain training or hold a certain certification, things that are typically managed in a learning management system. So definition, PIM, a software layer that sits on top of your physical access control system on the one hand, and then pulls information from people and business systems on the other hand. Now, why would you consider implementing a PIM? So what are the main benefits of it? There's really two important benefits when using a physical identity and access management system. The first one is that it allows you to do a lot of automation of access control related processes. Without a PIM, there's a lot of manual, labor-intensive work involved in managing a physical access control system. When a new employee starts, you have to enter the information of that person in the system, you have to assign access rights to them. When a person wants to travel to another part of the country and have access to another location, a change request needs to be filed, someone needs to go into the system, add access rights, and then there's a risk of those access rights never be revoked. A physical identity access management automates all of these processes. So really the entire life cycle of a person in the organization, whether it's an employee, a visitor that only passes by once, or a contractor that will be working for you for a couple of months, each part of that life cycle, the onboarding, changes in the role, changes in access they need, traveling, and then the offboarding, all of these processes are completely automated through PIM. So if a new person starts next Monday, the PIM system will receive that information from, in this example, it could be Workday, an HR system. It receives that information, it will automatically create a record for that person in the physical access control system and assign the correct rights. If that person in a month from now would travel to, for example, London for a week, that person could, through a very simple self-service portal, request access to the London facility from that date till that date. And in the background, one or more approval flows could be kicked off, asking people to approve that access, and then automatically these access rights will be added to the person's badge for that period of time. So first advantage, automating a lot of these processes, taking away human error prone processes that you have today. The second advantage or benefit of using a PIM system is the ability to move away from statically defining access to dynamically assigning access. And the best way to explain that is by means of an example. Today, let's say that you have an IT department of 10 people. If you want to assign access rights to the data center for those people, you would go into the physical access control system and name by name assign the access rights to the data center. So it's manual and you assign it person by person. When you sort of use a PIM, you can do that in a very different way. And that way is referred to as attribute-based access control. It's a term that has been inherited from the cybersecurity space. In cybersecurity, identity and access management systems have evolved tremendously over the last 2 decades. Initially, attribute or access control was done in a very similar way as physical access control systems. In each application, you would statically assign who has access to this application, what can they do within that application. Over the last 2 decades, we first saw a move to role-based access control, and then more recently to attribute-based access control. And what attribute-based access control allows you to do is, instead of statically saying that person has access to that particular, in this case, location, you're going to put in policies. And if we go back to our data center example, a policy in this one could be people that are part of the IT department, that have an active employment status, and that have gone through these 3 IT trainings, they have access to the data center. By defining this policy once, you've literally said, if you sort of meet those objectives, these attributes, then you have access to the data center, and you no longer have to assign that person by person. So if tomorrow a new person starts in IT, they're an IT person, they have an active employment status, and they've completed those 3 trainings, then automatically access will be assigned to those people. The other way around, if the employment status would change or a certain training would expire and they don't renew it, then automatically that access will be revoked using the PIM layer. That makes access control much more sort of robust, and it's a much more dynamic way of managing the risk related to access control. So if we summarize, PIM has 2 main benefits. The first one is automate a lot of access control related processes. So there's a return in investment and you take away the potential for human errors. And secondly, it allows you to move from static access control to dynamic access control, leveraging the attribute-based access control capabilities that come with a PIM platform. I hope this was useful. If you would like to learn more about PIM, we have written a blog on this topic in which you can find some more detailed information. And of course, if you would like to learn more about how RightCrowd can help you with PIM, I would like to refer you to our website where you can find a lot of information, including links to webinars where we explain our PIM solution in more detail.